Hey ladies and gentlemen, lads and ladettes, welcome to this new YouTube video. It's the second iteration of my Apex Legends tier list, and I hope you guys agree with it, or I don't really hope that you guys agree with it. It's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it if you don't want to, but if you can, oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I made the first one, and I've had a few different instances of, I think I stuffed up there. This one's going to have a few modifications, and I hope it's a little bit more accurate, of course, as the game has now evolved, because I made that tier list like 2 days in, right? So that was only really my first impressions, and this is going to be with Octane. I don't have a visual representation on this actual tier grid, but I can tell you where he lays out anyway in a little bit. So just going to give you guys a general criteria of what I'm looking for these characters. So obviously their abilities, whether it's relative to their passive, their standard ability, and their ultimate. So we're going to be taking into consideration to see how powerful they are as an ability character. The hitbox is going to be quite an important factor as well, and we'll get into that a little bit later once we're talking about, Gibraltar and Caustic. Also relating to how good they are in relation to the early, mid, and late game, which, people might hear in MOBAs, for example, but their abilities can, in fact, be a lot more useful in certain instances of the game. I'm going to be talking about their utility, see how applicable they are through most scenarios, and yeah, those are really going to be the main instances or the criteria that I'm going to be showing for you guys, and there's also some other things that we can talk about a little bit more later on. So who's the best character in the game? I still think it's Lifeline. This is one thing that's not going to be changing in this tier list. I think Lifeline is still the best hero. It's going to be for a different reason though. My initial reasoning was, oh yeah, because she has a heal drone. I don't actually think it's relevant to a heal drone. Now that Octane's in the game, her heal drone's a little bit more useful as well. It's still great ability. The good thing about a heal drone is it, as I said in my previous video, is it eliminates the whole RNG of, oh, if we get stuffed up and we can't find any med supplies, then we're absolutely boned. And it's very good for the early game because you're going to get in a lot of scrambles, and early game you're not going to find the most consistent meds, so having a drone there is just an absolute icing on the cake, so you can reset and go for another fight, get more loot. It accelerates the early game. It's a very good pace setter. And of course, her care package, once you transition that early game pressure with your drone into the mid game, can make things a little bit easier towards you heading into the late game. So she has quite a good hitbox as well, and she's relevant throughout all stages. Her passives are insane, faster healing, and having a shield that's she can only have one and still be great. The passive revive is absolutely amazing. It can fall for great outplay potential as well, because you can use the shield as a sort of block and then re-engage of like a close range shotgun if they decide to interfere with you. Man, she's a super strong character. I don't need to say anymore. Is there anyone that deserves to be with her? I think Bangalore deserves to be with her. Bangalore still is going to be up here. Her utility with the smoke grenade is something that is, you look for PUBG, for example, right? Who isn't going to use smoke grenades? CSGO, look for example, smoke grenades are an integral part of the game. Smoke grenades in every single game that involves you shooting are incredibly powerful, and this chick manages to have it in her kit as an ability. So yeah, massively powerful. The passive, of course, as well, is something that it makes you feel like you're playing a whole different game. It has outstanding uses to get both in and out of battles, and yeah, man, her ultimate provides a pretty decent amount of zone control as well, and it gets better and better as the game goes. If the zone is closing, there's no way you're not hitting anyone of that. Yes, she's a strong character, friendly hitbox, and is relevant through all stages of the game. She doesn't fade off. She is outstanding in pretty much every single way. That's why she is an S tier. Does anyone else deserve to be an S tier? No. Let's discover what Racquet thinks who should be in A tier. So, here's who I think should be in A tier. So, Wraith. Wraith, you're in A tier. Why do I think you're in A tier, Wraith? It's because I think you're pretty goddamn solid. I think Wraith probably has the best hitbox in the game, which is very, very relevant in Apex Legends, because, guns like the Peacekeeper and guns that have a little bit more of an open spread are going to have a bit more trouble on reliably hitting her. Of course, you're going to have better aim. And she has the opportunity of, if someone's aiming at me, I can react a little bit quicker, and since she does pretty much have a get out of jail free card with her first ability, then she can react to escaping situations a lot earlier than other heroes can in this game. So yeah, her ultimate isn't the strongest in the game. It is quite useful, but I don't think it's like amazing in any regard. But just the nature of her being very slippery, I think warrants her to be pretty high. She doesn't have any game-breaking abilities, but that in conjunction with the first ability can make things quite powerful. So yeah, Wraith is definitely a strong hero, and in the right hands, I think can certainly even sort of peak towards that S tier slot even more. So just imagine, dragging Octane. Woo, I'm putting him in A tier. What do I think Octane belongs in A tier? Why is he not in S tier? Okay, so of course this is sort of going to be like my first impressions video of him. I don't have that much of a sample size of Octane. I've played him a bunch though. I've watched people play him. The good thing about Octane is he has a ton of outplay potential, and he has a fantastic hitbox as well. The main problem is I think his passive is a little bit underwhelming. Like, I thought the health regen would be a little bit more. It doesn't exactly make you able to use Q absolutely all the time. Sure, a good chunk of it. But the reality is, of course, you are going to be spending a little bit of health to invest into these battles at a cost of movement, which, you know, if you're a person who played Quake or fast shooters, then you're going to be very familiar with those. He's very, very close to getting S. I think he's better than Wraith, actually. But I think people still need to experiment with him a little bit more. I need to experiment with him a little bit more in order to get a little bit more of a valid statement. I think his trampoline ability can be either really good or shit. The problem is you can't really use it mid-battle in a way that you're not going to be constructing or choreographing where you're going to be landing. So let's just say there's someone like 10 meters in front of you. You decide to plop up the jump pad. That's not going to be a very good play because your velocity, the trajectory at where you're going to be landing, it's actually pretty easy to do it. The good part of the trampoline is when, for example, you catching someone off guard, a very good flank tool, or there is a path in which there is high ground that needs to be accessed that you can either use to gain ground on the opponent or join them on that area as well. So it eliminates some of the sightlines. So yeah, quite a creative hero, and I think in the right hands, the skill ceiling is higher than Rave's and can certainly transcend it to S tier, but I'm certainly not sure on that yet. But yeah, I think he's definitely very strong. In terms of other characters in this game, alright, well, I'm going to leave that for now. I'm trying to think, guys. I'm trying to think. Okay. I'm going to put Gibraltar in C tier. Actually, why am I skipping tiers? I should just do this order by order, like a true professional racket. So we've got Lifeline, Bangalore, Wraith, Octane, imaginary Octane here. I'm just trying to space this out. Yeah, so I definitely know Pathfinder's going to be in B tier. I don't think Pathfinder absolutely sucks because his grapple can be very, very useful in getting into places a lot easier. And his ultimate is also okay at getting out of situations where you need to rush to a certain location. Now, the problem is, both of his abilities aren't really centered towards combat. Sure, with his ability 1, you can make some pretty cool outplays, but I feel like after Octane just being released, he's like a strict better version for that scenario. So if you're using Pathfinder, you really just want to get around the map quickly, but you have a fair amount of mobility in this game anyway, so it feels like overkill to me. Pathfinder just doesn't have the most useful kit for what is in this game. If he was in PUBG, I think he'd be an S tier. But in a faster paced game like Apex, his grapples just seem unnecessary. The flat movement speed buff is better because you can use it in combat, for example, with Octane. The grapple, you can't use it when you're in the middle of a fight. You sort of can, but it's a little bit trickier to do it. And his hitbox is also a bit shitty too. So yeah, I'm sorry, Pathfinder. You're a very fun character to play, though. I give you that. We're going to put Bloodhound up here as well. So probably the weakest out of the A tier characters. More comparable to Wraith, I feel. So Bloodhound's problem is that his ability 1 is telegraphed in that you know where he is pretty much when he uses it too. And that's the sort of down trade on it, right? So if he predicts incorrectly, you can still see the circular barrier in which where he casts the locations, and you can sort of predict where he's going, which is, you know, a little bit ironic since he's supposed to be the tracker. So his ability 1, it's okay. It's pretty good for infiltrating buildings, so yeah, it's very solid in that department, and it still has the utility of, hey, I can see you through smokes, which is very, very relevant since Bangalore is pretty much in every single game. So yeah, that's amazing. And the thing that makes Bloodhound a lot better as well, of course, is the synergy with Bangalore 2. The just absolutely ruthless aggression that you can do when you use your ult into a smoke and just charge at people with the Peacekeeper. A lot of movement speed, and that's like a significant power spike when you have those resources available. And it's a great opportunity to, if you're a really big aggro player, I think Bloodhound as a character that's good for you if you have it synergy with someone else. So even without the smoke grenade, is a very useful ultimate to have in play, because just knowing where everyone is, just it feels easy to hit those shots too. So yeah, Bloodhound certainly deserves to be in the A tier because he's better than the other characters looking that are not on this current list. So we have more fellas to put on. Oh, this is difficult. Okay. So, it may be a hot take, but I think all these characters are very, very comparable, and I don't think one deserves to be segregated to the D tier. I'm just going to explain this one by one. So, Gibraltar, of course, the hitbox changes came in, still pretty easy to hit, but out of every single kit in the game, Gibraltar has like one of the strongest, right? I think his shield's actually quite underrated. It's very easy to kite inwards and outwards of the shield, and if you have initiative, then you're going to have the advantage in that regard. You also have the airstrike to force him in as well, if that ever comes to point there. And his ultimate's very, very useful in the late game when the stage starts closing in, because you can just chill in the shield and watch them just burn outside, right? But the problem is his passive is sort of lackluster, the damage reduction is very flimsy, and his hitbox is still a bit big. But I think Gibraltar's overall, he feels very clunky compared to other characters as well. I don't know, when I play him, it just feels like awkward to play. But he's not as bad, I feel now. But his utility can come into play if you put him in the right hands, I think. Mirage, well, whoop-de-fucking-do. The amount of people who called me out and been like, oh, I don't know why you don't have Mirage top tier. You know, Summit ends up playing him all the time. Yeah, but his Summit, he could play fucking Caustic and make him look like an absolute top tier hero. Now, as a person who actually has played a shit ton of Mirage and has mained him for quite a bit, I think this is pretty accurate. I don't think he's exactly the worst character in the game, like I pinned out before, but he has gotten worse and worse as time went on. When I said that Mirage was down on the D tier last time, because I thought that he's only going to get worse because people are going to acknowledge that his decoys are actually pretty gimmicky. His decoys come into play the best when you have, for example, a burst weapon or something that requires reload time or slow like a shotgun, and you tank the very first shot from the decoy, and it gives him more room to counter-engage onto you, and therefore gives him the first shot to use because you wasted yours, right? But it's a little bit slower to recover. But his ultimate is garbage. There's no two ways about it, because, right, if Bloodhound's there, you're going to die 100% of the time. He flat out counters you. Caustic, in fact, can trigger his traps, right? And AoE abilities tag you easily. Because the movement speed buff that you get after it's not great. It's not like it's not a get out of jail free card. Wraith's default ability is more consistent than Mirage's ultimate. I think it is awful. Just spray around and you will tag him, and once you tag him once, you will acknowledge how he piles afterwards and you will kill him. It's awful. His passive's quite good though. It's good for stalling in time and for a teammate to come in. It can really help you out. But yeah, at least Mirage has a good hitbox going for him. He's okay. And last of all, Caustic. Caustic could very well be the worst character in the game, but I think the buffs actually helped him. The fact that his hitbox is a little bit smaller, and the biggest part is that his traps activate quicker. Now, the main problem is, of Caustic, is how relevant are his actual traps. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, that just doesn't do any damage, therefore he's shit. But are his traps there to do damage, or is it there to slow them down and give him the advantage, right? In fact, that he does get the advantage earlier because the trap setups are easier to produce means that he's overall a better character in that regard. He's better in battle now too, because it means that he doesn't necessarily have to camp to be useful. That is going to be where he's going to be the best for his sort of type in that regard. But he can actually place traps in battle and feel actually somewhat relevant in that regard, right? His ultimate still leaves a little bit to be desired. It's okay. The slows are right, but yeah. Overall, he's an okay character. This is a little bit short of a tier list from last time, because people did complain about the time, so I thought I'd do it a little bit quicker. But overall, you know, a TLDR, a lot of things have changed. Gibraltar was actually in S tier last time because I thought his abilities were absolutely amazing. But the reality is his passive sucks and his hitbox sucks. So you're in C tier, buddy. He's just knocked down all the other way. And there's one thing that's very noticeable in this game, guys. Hitboxes are very, very important. You notice that pretty much all the top tiers have very good hitboxes. They have flexible kits, and they're mobile, and it can cover you up. So yeah, that's the common theme here. All the guys who are bottom tier have shit all mobility, which I don't mean to contradict myself earlier on in the video, because mobility is easily accessed through, like, you know, the crouching, not the crouch run slide thing, and just overall like better movement in this game. But like, the other ones in the top tier have battle mobility spells, which is a lot different than traversing, like when you're trying to get out of a zone or something or going to someone else. They're going to be useful in the battle, which is a key thing to note, right? So yeah, this is my tier list. Probably not set in stone. It'll probably change and a little bit more, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.